In 1972, a man named Bobby Wilbur Smith was arrested by Oklahoma City police for a series of violent crimes against his girlfriend, Heidi Trout. This encounter sparked a chain of events, orchestrated by a cunning sociopath, that would test even the most experienced law officers. An elusive, troubled, and violent man, Smith was raised by a family of well-known criminals, drug dealers, and moonshiners from deep in the Cookson Hills of northeastern Oklahoma. Before this arrest, he'd served 3 years in prison for murdering his uncle after a failed essay. He arrived at a halfway house in downtown Oklahoma City in the winter of 1972 and shortly after, began a relationship with 29-year-old local 7-Eleven clerk Heidi Trout. On the night he was apprehended, officers charged him with stalking, burglary, and assault. But rather than face the charges, he faked a profound mental breakdown, threatening self-harm and urinating on himself. His performance was convincing enough to land him in Griffin Memorial Hospital in Norman, Oklahoma. 4 weeks, he observed the hospital's routines and protocols. On May 22, 1972, a tornado outbreak took place around the state. In the chaos of a power outage, he put his plan into action, slipping through a laundry chute and scaling a wrought iron fence. He made his way to a nearby apartment complex, where he jumped into a truck that was left running and hit I-35 northbound. He quickly ran out of gas and made the trek on foot to ex-girlfriend Heidi Trout's home in southwest Oklahoma City, just outside the stockyards. A witness stated that Smith arrived as Heidi did, and the two immediately began shouting and arguing before sharing an embrace and disappearing into the house. The next morning, neighbors were shocked to discover the blood-splattered front door at the Trout home. Police arrived to find Heidi Trout deceased just inside her front door. But even the most seasoned detectives weren't ready for what they saw inside. From what the file says, we are unable to discuss the horrific scene, but a couple of bullet points we can share are that the bloodshed was so horrible it soaked through the wooden floor of the house, and 2 broken chef's knives were lodged in the victim. Bobby Wilbur Smith left his fingerprints all over the residence and left in Trout's 1969 Plymouth Valiant with her checkbook. He was the prime suspect and nowhere to be found. The murder ignited a massive manhunt involving a statewide BOLO and the Oklahoma Highway Patrol. Bobby Wilbur Smith was fleeing to a familiar hideout for many criminals, including Pretty Boy Floyd in the 1920s. But for him it was home. The Cookson Hills. The Cookson Hills are a rugged and remote area in Cherokee County, where the bad used to outnumber the good. It's a landscape of rivers, forested hills with towering pines, rocky outcroppings, and winding dirt roads, with a lineage of criminals and outlaws. The landscape in the hills wasn't just one of nature. It was littered with broken-down vehicles, the skeletons of copper-stripped machines, burn piles, and hoarded junk. In a local newspaper article about the manhunt, one resident they called Pappy Claw stated, "Ain't no place to hide like these here hills. Folks here, they know how to disappear. You're an outsider, till you ain't, and then you're just another shadow, just another ghost in the pines." Robert Wilbur Smith was a phantom, moving from one relative's isolated cabin to another, a master of survival and evasion who taunted the police and knew how to even throw the police dogs off his scent. For 4 long months, the relentless Oklahoma Highway Patrol pursued him, but he always seemed one step ahead. The state even enlisted the help of world-renowned bounty hunter, Ralph Thorson, which helped the authorities narrow their perimeter and tactics. Smith's luck finally ran out just as resources were drying up. Authorities cornered him in a cottage outside Barber, Oklahoma, after he was metaphorically smoked out of the woods. The fugitive's run was over. Shortly after, Smith pleaded guilty to murder and was sentenced to life without parole, plus an additional 100 years. He was immediately sent to prison in a convoy of police cars. Just 1 week into his sentence, Bobby Wilbur Smith met his fate, which came in the form of the fists of his 6'9", 350-pound cellmate Robin Merle Battle at the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. Battle and Smith were involved in a brutal fight that fractured his skull and left him with no brain activity. Battle stated, "I thought he would never shut up and I just kinda lost it." Robert Wilbur Smith's story ended as violently as it had begun.